Rafael Nadal's unexpected visit to Alex Eala's second home stops the internet. 1 year after retirement, the 22-time Grand Slam champion returns to the court, not for a comeback, but for her. The Academy in Manacor, where she spent 7 years transforming from a wide-eyed 13-year-old into the Philippines' first WTA semifinalist, the place she calls home. When Nadal posted the practice session with 14 million followers watching, the tennis world froze. This wasn't just a friendly hit. This was a legend honoring his protege, a moment that proved some bonds go deeper than trophies. Imagine being 13 years old. Imagine leaving your family, your friends, everything you've ever known, and boarding a plane to a country where you don't speak the language, where you don't know a single soul, where the only thing waiting for you is a dream so big it terrifies you. That was Alex Eala in 2015, a kid from Manila with a racket in her hand and fire in her eyes, heading to Manacor, Spain, heading to the Rafa Nadal Academy. Most people don't understand what that decision costs. It's not just about tennis. It's about birthdays spent alone. It's about missing your mother's cooking, your father's advice, your siblings' laughter. It's about FaceTime calls where you pretend everything's okay while tears stream down your face. Alex gave up her childhood for a chance to be great, a chance to make history, and she did it without hesitation. The Rafa Nadal Academy isn't just a training facility, it's a temple, a place where champions are forged through pain, discipline, and an almost religious devotion to the craft. When Alex arrived, she was one of dozens of hopefuls, kids from every corner of the globe, all chasing the same impossible dream. The difference? Alex didn't just want it, she needed it. The Philippines had never produced a Grand Slam champion, never had a player break into the WTA elite. She carried that weight on her shoulders every single day. The Academy became her world. The red clay courts, the relentless Spanish fun, the coaches who pushed her until she thought she'd break. And somewhere in the background, always watching, always present, was Rafael Nadal himself, not as a distant idol, but as a mentor, a guide, someone who saw in her what she hadn't yet seen in herself. 7 years. That's how long Alex Eala called Manacor home. 7 years of early mornings and late nights. 7 years of blisters, injuries, setbacks, and small victories. 7 years of becoming someone new, while never forgetting where she came from. When people ask her about those years, she doesn't talk about the trophies or the rankings. She talks about the family she found, the coaches who believed in her, the place that gave her everything. And at the center of it all was Rafa, the man whose name was on the building, the man who built this academy, not for profit, but for legacy. He didn't need to be there every day. He didn't need to know every student's name. But he did. He knew Alex. He watched her grow from a nervous teenager into a warrior. And when she finally graduated, when she stepped onto the WTA tour, he sent her off with words she'd never forget. "You have everything you need. Now go show the world." But here's the thing about leaving home. You can move on, you can chase new dreams, but a part of you always stays behind. A part of Alex Eala never left Manacor. It's still there, on those clay courts, in the weight room, in the locker room, where she used to sit and wonder if she was good enough. The Rafa Nadal Academy wasn't just where she trained, it was where she became herself. And Rafa? He didn't just build an academy, he built a family, and Alex Eala would always be family. But training at the academy was just the beginning. What came next would shock everyone, including Rafa himself. 7 years is a long time in tennis. Long enough to go from unknown to unstoppable. Long enough to win titles, lose heartbreakers, and learn what it really means to fight. For Alex Eala, those 7 years at the Rafa Nadal Academy were everything. They were her education, her transformation, her rebirth. When she first arrived in 2015, she was raw talent wrapped in uncertainty. She had the shots, sure. The forehand was already devastating. The movement was natural. But tennis at that level isn't about talent. It's about obsession. It's about wanting it more than the girl across the net. And that's what the academy taught her. Not just how to hit a ball, but how to think like a champion. The junior circuit became her proving ground. She dominated. the 2020 Australian Open Girls Doubles title, the 2021 U.S. Open Girls Singles title, the first Filipino ever to win a junior Grand Slam singles crown. The world started paying attention. But Alex wasn't satisfied. Juniors were just the beginning. The real war was waiting on the WTA Tour. Transitioning from juniors to the pros is where most careers die. The gap is brutal. The physicality, the mental pressure, the realization that everyone you face is faster, stronger, smarter. But Alex had something they didn't. She had Manacor. She had the Academy's resources. She had coaches who understood the journey. And she had Rafa's example, a man who built his entire career on outworking everyone else. The Academy shaped more than her game. It shaped her mindset. Rafa's philosophy is simple. You don't deserve anything. You earn it. Every point, every match, every victory. That mentality seeped into Eala's bones. She stopped hoping for wins and started demanding them. She stopped playing not to lose and started playing to dominate. The shy 13-year-old was gone. In her place stood a fighter. But it wasn't just about tennis. The Academy gave her structure, discipline, a sense of belonging. When you're thousands of miles from home, you need anchors. Alex found hers in the daily routines, the 6 a.m. fitness sessions, the tactical meetings, the post-practice debriefs where coaches dissected every mistake. She found it in the friendships with other players who understood the sacrifice. And she found it in the quiet moments when Rafa would walk onto the court, racket in hand, and say, "Let's hit." Those practice sessions with Nadal weren't frequent. Rafa was still competing at the highest level, still chasing titles. But when he was home, when he had time, he'd show up. Not to show off, not to remind anyone who he was, but to teach, to inspire, to prove that greatness isn't about genetics or luck. It's about showing up every single day and refusing to quit. Alex soaked it all in. The way Rafa attacked every ball like his life depended on it. The way he never gave up on a point no matter how impossible it seemed. The way he treated every practice like a final. That became her standard. If Rafa could bring that intensity after 22 Grand Slams, what excuse did she have? And then came the graduation, 2022. After 7 years, Alex Eala was ready to leave the nest. The Academy held a ceremony. Photos were taken, speeches were given. Rafa himself handed her a plaque, a symbol of everything she'd accomplished. But the real gift wasn't the plaque. It was the confidence, the belief that she belonged on the biggest stages. The Rafa Nadal Academy had given her everything: world-class coaching, cutting-edge facilities, a support system that never wavered. But most importantly, it gave her proof that a girl from the Philippines could stand toe-to-toe with anyone. Proof that dreams aren't just possible, they're inevitable if you're willing to pay the price. As she left Manacor to chase her WTA dreams, Alex carried that academy with her. In every forehand, in every fist pump, in every moment when the doubt crept in and she remembered where she came from. She carried Rafa's lessons, and she carried the knowledge that Manacor would always be home. But neither she nor Rafa knew that one day the roles would reverse, that the student would become the story, and that Rafa would return to honor her in a way that would break the internet. And then Miami 2025 happened, the moment that changed everything. Miami, March 2025. The sun blazed over Hard Rock Stadium as the world's best gathered for one of tennis's most prestigious tournaments. Alex Eala wasn't supposed to be there. She was ranked outside the top 150. She had no direct entry, but she got a wild card, a gift, a chance. And she was about to make everyone remember her name. Wildcards are tricky. They're either wasted on promising players who crumble under pressure, or they're handed to legends who've earned the right to one last dance. Alex was neither. She was something else. She was hungry, dangerously hungry. The kind of hunger that makes you fearless, the kind that makes you believe you can beat anyone. Round 1, a solid win, but nothing shocking. Round 2, another victory. People started noticing. By round 3, the whispers began. Is this real? Is Alex Eala actually making a run? But the real test was coming. Round 4, Madison Keys, a Grand Slam finalist, a top 20 player, a woman who could blow opponents off the court with her power. And Alex dismantled her. It wasn't luck, it wasn't a fluke, it was pure, calculated dominance. The forehand that had been honed on Manacor's clay courts was firing lasers. The movement was relentless. The mentality, vintage Rafa. She didn't just win, she made a statement. The Philippines erupted, social media exploded, and somewhere in Manacor, Rafael Nadal was watching. He posted on Instagram a simple message: "Incredible, Alex. Keep fighting." 3 words from a legend. 3 words that meant everything. But Alex wasn't done. The quarterfinals. Iga Świątek, the world #1, the woman who had won 5 Grand Slams by age 23, the woman who was supposed to steamroll through Miami on her way to another title. Except nobody told Alex that. The match was a war. Świątek came out firing, trying to intimidate the wild card into submission. It didn't work. Alex matched her, shot for shot, rally for rally. The crowd was losing their minds. This wasn't supposed to happen. Wildcards don't do this. Wildcards don't challenge the throne. But Alex did. And in a third-set tiebreak that will be replayed for years, she did the impossible. She beat Iga Świątek, the world #1, the champion, the favorite. Alex Eala, the girl from Manila who left everything behind at 13, had just shocked the tennis world. The Philippines didn't just celebrate, they lost their minds. Manila was in chaos. News outlets ran 24/7 coverage. Politicians tweeted. Celebrities posted. The entire nation had been waiting for this moment. For decades, Filipino tennis had been invisible. Talented players would come and go, but none had ever broken through. Alex just kicked the door down. Back in Manacor, the Rafa Nadal Academy was celebrating like they'd won a Grand Slam. Because, in a way, they had. This was their success, too. Every coach who'd worked with Alex, every training partner who'd pushed her, every early morning, every painful drill, every moment of doubt, it all led to this. And Rafa? He was proud. Not in a loud, public way, that's not who he is, but those who know him could see it. This was validation, proof that the Academy wasn't just about making money or trading on his name. It was about changing lives, about giving kids like Alex a real shot. The semifinal didn't go Alex's way. She ran into Sabalenka, who was on a warpath to the title. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Alex Eala was no longer a prospect. She was a threat. She was legitimate, and she had announced herself to the world in the most dramatic way possible. In the press conference after the Świątek match, a reporter asked her about the Academy, about Rafa, about what it all meant. Alex paused, her eyes welled up, and she said, "Everything I am, I owe to that place, to Rafa, to the people who believed in me when I was just a kid with a dream. This win isn't just mine, it's ours." Those words went viral because they were real, because they cut through all the media training and corporate speak. This wasn't a tennis robot thanking her sponsors. This was a young woman who understood sacrifice, who understood loyalty, who understood that she stood on the shoulders of everyone who'd invested in her. But the story doesn't end in Miami, because 8 months later, on November 19th, 2025, something would happen that nobody saw coming, something that would remind the world why Alex Eala and Rafa Nadal's bond was different, why Manacor wasn't just a training facility, why some connections transcend sport. November 19th, 2025, exactly 1 year after saying goodbye to tennis, Rafa picked up his racket again, but not for himself. November 19th, 2024. That was the day tennis lost its king. Rafael Nadal played his final professional match at the Davis Cup in Malaga. The tears, the standing ovation that lasted forever, the acknowledgement from rivals, from fans, from legends who knew they'd witness greatness. Rafa retired with 22 Grand Slam titles, an Olympic gold medal, and a legacy that would never be matched. The warrior was hanging up his sword. For a year, he stayed away from competitive tennis. He showed up at events, sure, he gave speeches, he smiled for photos, but he didn't pick up a racket. Not in that way, not with intent. The body had given everything. It was time to rest, time to step back, time to let the next generation take over. And then came November 19th, 2025, exactly 1 year later. Alex Eala was back in Manacor. She'd been on the road for months, tournaments across Asia, Europe, the Americas. The grind of the WTA Tour is relentless, but she always made time to return to the Academy, to train, to reset, to remember why she started. This visit was supposed to be routine, a few days of practice, some time with her old coaches, nothing special. Except Rafa had other plans. The Instagram post dropped at 2 p.m. local time, a photo of Rafa and Alex on the court, mid-rally, both smiling, both locked in. The caption was simple. 1 year later, back where it all started, with one of the Academy's brightest stars. Vamos, Alex. 14 million followers saw it instantly. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Comments flooded in. Thousands, then tens of thousands. Tennis fans, Filipino fans, Rafa fans. Everyone wanted to know what was happening. Was this real? Was Rafa back? Was this just a friendly hit, or was it something more? The video followed 20 minutes later. Rafa and Alex rallying. Not some casual back and forth. Real rallies. Competitive, intense. Rafa's forehand still had that vicious topspin. Alex's speed was unreal. They pushed each other. They laughed. They worked. And in that moment, the world saw something beautiful. A legend who didn't need to prove anything, stepping back onto the court for someone else. For her. It wasn't about him. It wasn't about a comeback. It wasn't about headlines or nostalgia. It was about honoring a bond. About showing up for someone who'd given 7 years of her life to his academy. Someone who'd believed in his vision. Someone who was now making history for an entire country. The tennis community lost it. Former players tweeted, commentators made it the top story on every sports network, fans created tributes. But the real magic was in the comments section. Filipino fans poured their hearts out. Thank you, Rafa, for believing in her. This is what mentorship looks like. She was just a kid, and you gave her a home. Because that's what this was about. Home. The Academy had been Alex's home for 7 years, and now, years later, Rafa was welcoming her back. Not as a student, as an equal, as a champion in her own right. The session wasn't just practice, it was a ceremony, a passing of the torch, a reminder that the Academy's mission to create not just players but people was working. The session lasted 2 hours. They worked on specific patterns. Rafa gave feedback. Alex asked questions. The old coaches watched from the sidelines, smiling. This was what they dreamed of when they opened the Academy, not just producing pros, but creating a family, a place where legends and rising stars could share the court as equals. When it was over, they sat courtside, hydrating and talking. What they said, we'll never know, but the photos captured something words can't. Mutual respect, gratitude, joy. Rafa looked at Alex the way a teacher looks at a student who's surpassed expectations. Alex looked at Rafa the way you look at someone who changed your life. The post went viral in a way few tennis moments do. It wasn't about a rivalry. It wasn't about drama or controversy. It was about something pure, something the sport desperately needs more of. It was about legacy, about giving back, about remembering that tennis, at its best, is about connection. Within 24 hours, the post had over 3 million likes. News outlets across the globe ran the story. The Philippines declared it a national moment of pride. And Rafael Nadal, 1 year removed from his final match, reminded everyone why he's more than a champion. He's a builder, a mentor, a legend who understands that greatness isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you lift up along the way. November 19th, 2025, the day Rafa came back. Not for himself, for Alex, for the Academy, for everyone who believes that sport can be about more than winning. And the internet stopped. Because sometimes the world needs to pause and remember what really matters. But this moment wasn't just about a practice session. It was about what Rafa and Alex represent and what they're proving to the world. On the surface, it was just a practice session. 2 players hitting balls on a clay court in Manacor. But if you believe that's all it was, you're missing the entire story. Because what happened on November 19th, 2025 was a masterclass in legacy, in mentorship, in what it means to build something that lasts. Rafael Nadal didn't need to be there. Let's be very clear about that. The man had retired a year earlier after giving tennis everything he had. 22 Grand Slams, 14 French Opens, battles with Federer and Djokovic that defined an era. He'd earned the right to disappear, to rest, to enjoy life beyond the baseline. But that's not who Rafa is, and that's not what the Academy is about. The Rafa Nadal Academy was never just a business. Rafa could have licensed his name to some facility and collected checks. That's what most athletes do. But instead, he built something personal, something real, a place where kids from every background could come and learn not just tennis, but life, discipline, humility, resilience, the things that made him who he is. And Alex Eala is the proof that it works. Think about her journey for a second. A 13-year-old from Manila, a country with almost zero tennis infrastructure, no Grand Slam champions, no role models, just a dream, and parents brave enough to let her chase it halfway across the world. She could have gone anywhere. IMG Academy in Florida, any number of European training centers, but she chose Manacor. She chose Rafa's vision. And for 7 years, the Academy invested in her. Not because she was going to make them rich, not because she was a guaranteed star, but because that's what the Academy does. It finds hungry kids and gives them the tools to succeed, the coaching, the facilities, the culture of excellence. And when Alex finally broke through in Miami, when she beat the world #1, every single person at that academy felt it, because they'd been part of the journey. The November practice session was Rafa's way of saying, I see you. I'm proud of you. You're not forgotten. In a sport where players are commodities, where you're only as valuable as your last result, that kind of loyalty is rare. Alex didn't need Rafa to validate her. She'd already proven herself. But he showed up anyway, because that's what mentors do. Here's what the session really meant. Legacy isn't about trophies. It's about impact. Rafa's Grand Slam titles will be remembered forever, but in 50 years, when people talk about Rafael Nadal, they'll also talk about the hundreds of kids whose lives he changed. They'll talk about Alex Eala, the Filipino trailblazer who came from nothing and became a WTA force. They'll talk about the academy that didn't just produce players, it produced people. And for Alex, the session was a reminder of where she came from. It's easy to forget in the chaos of the tour, the travel, the pressure, the constant grind. But stepping back onto those Manacor courts, hitting with the man who built them, brought everything into focus. She's not just representing herself, she's representing the Philippines. She's representing every kid who's been told their dream is too big. And she's representing the Academy's mission. The internet stopped because people recognized something authentic. We live in an age of curated images and manufactured moments. But this was real. Two people who genuinely care about each other, sharing a court, honoring a bond. No sponsors, no cameras, except the ones Rafa allowed. Just tennis, just respect. And here's the deeper layer. This is what women's tennis needs more of. The sport has incredible champions, Iga, Sabalenka, Rybakina, Goff. But it also needs stories like this, stories of mentorship, of investment, of legends using their platform to elevate the next generation. Rafa didn't need to post that session. He didn't need the publicity, but he did it because he wanted the world to see Alex, to know her name, to understand her story. That's power, real power. Not the power of dominance or wealth, but the power to change narratives, to give someone a platform, to say, this person matters. And in a sport where women's stories often get overshadowed, where women's achievements are constantly compared to men's, Rafa, using his massive following to celebrate Alex, was a statement. The session also sent a message to every young player at the academy. It said, if you work hard, if you stay loyal, if you embody what we teach here, you'll always be family. That matters. In a cutthroat sport where players are discarded the moment they stop producing results, the academy offers something different: belonging, support, legacy. So what did the session really mean? It meant that Rafael Nadal understands greatness isn't just about winning, it's about giving. It meant that Alex Eala's journey from 13-year-old hopeful to WTA contender is the ultimate validation of the Academy's mission. And it meant that in a sport obsessed with rankings and results, there's still room for humanity, for connection, for moments that remind us why we fell in love with tennis in the first place. November 19th, 2025 wasn't just a practice session. It was a love letter to the sport, to the academy, to the idea that if you invest in people, if you believe in them, they can change the world. And Alex Eala, she's just getting started. But here's the question nobody's asking. What does this mean for the future? For Filipino tennis? For every kid who thinks their dream is impossible? Here's what most people don't understand about the Rafa Nadal Academy. It's not about creating the next Rafael Nadal. It's about creating the first version of you. That's the philosophy. That's the mission. And Alex Eala is the living, breathing proof that it works. When you walk through the gates of the academy in Manacor, you're not just entering a tennis facility, you're entering a culture, a mindset, a family that spans continents, languages, and backgrounds. The academy doesn't promise Grand Slam titles. It doesn't guarantee fame or wealth. What it promises is this: if you give everything you have, we'll give everything we have, and together, we'll find out how far you can go. For Alex, that promise meant everything. She arrived at 13 with raw talent and a dream bigger than herself. She left at 20 with a Grand Slam doubles title, a singles title, and the skills to compete at the highest level. But more importantly, she left with something intangible: confidence, identity, the unshakable belief that she belonged. The bond between Alex and Rafa isn't coach and student. It's deeper than that. Rafa wasn't on court with her every day. He wasn't dissecting her backhand or fixing her serve, but his presence was everywhere. In the academy's standards, in the culture of relentless effort, in the example he set every time he stepped on a court and refused to give anything less than everything. Alex absorbed that. She became it. And when she talks about the academy, she doesn't just talk about the training. She talks about the family dinners, the conversations with coaches about life, not just tennis, the friendships with players from Spain, from China, from Brazil, all chasing the same dream. That's what Rafa built. Not a factory, a home. And here's what that means for the future. The academy isn't just changing individual lives. It's changing entire countries. Before Alex, the Philippines had talented players, but none had broken through on the WTA Tour. None had reached the semifinals of a major tournament. None had beaten a world number one. Alex did all of that. And in doing so, she didn't just make history for herself. She opened a door for every Filipino kid who picks up a racket. Right now, in Manila, in Cebu, and Davao, there are young girls watching Alex. They're seeing someone who looks like them, who comes from where they come from, competing against the best in the world. And they're thinking, if she can do it, maybe I can too. That's legacy. That's the ripple effect of investment. That's what happens when someone like Rafa builds something bigger than himself. But it's not just the Philippines. The academy has students from over 90 countries, and every single one of them is carrying the same lessons. Work harder than you think you can. Respect everyone, from the janitor to the Grand Slam champion. Understand that talent is just the starting point. Character is what separates the good from the great. Those lessons don't just create better tennis players, they create better people. And that November practice session, that was Rafa reinforcing all of it. He was telling every current student, stay the course. I see you. Your hard work matters. He was telling every graduate, you're still part of this. Distance doesn't break this bond. And he was telling the world, this is what success looks like. Not just trophies, but transformation. The truth is, Alex didn't need that session. She's already making it. She's already a star. But Rafa knew the world needed to see it, needed to be reminded that sports can be about more than money and ego, that mentorship matters, that investing in people, truly investing, pays dividends no trophy can match. So what does the future hold? For Alex, the sky's the limit. She's young, she's hungry, and she's proven she can beat anyone on her day. More titles are coming, more breakthroughs, maybe even a Grand Slam. But beyond her individual success, she's carrying the academy's torch. Every time she steps on court, she represents Manacor. Every time she wins, she validates Rafa's vision. And for the academy, it's just beginning. There are future champions training there right now, kids from countries that have never had a tennis star, kids who will change the sports landscape, and they're all learning the same lessons Alex learned, because that's what Rafa built, not a shortcut to success, but a roadmap. The bond between Alex Eala and Rafa Nadal transcends tennis because it's built on something tennis can't measure: gratitude, loyalty, mutual respect. She'll never forget what he gave her, he'll never stop celebrating what she's become, and the world is better for it. Home isn't always where you're born. Sometimes it's where you're believed in, where you're challenged, where you're loved unconditionally, even when you lose. For Alex Eala, that home is Manacor. That home is the Rafa Nadal Academy. And that home, no matter where her career takes her, will always be waiting. Because that's what family does. And that's exactly what Rafa and Alex are. Family. So here's the question we're left with. Was this just a practice session, or was it a movement? Was it nostalgia, or was it a glimpse of what sports should always be about? One thing's for sure. Rafael Nadal didn't need to step back on that court. He'd already given tennis everything, but he did it anyway. For Alex, for the Academy, for every kid who's been told their dream is too big. And Alex Eala? She's proving that dreams aren't too big. They're just getting started. What do you think? Is Alex the future of Filipino tennis, or is she building something even bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button. Because legends aren't just born, they're built. One practice session at a time. Vamos!